Many young people in China died mysteriously. Balconies of multiple floors collapse on a 7-story residential building. Oil tanker mixing incident escalates. Netizens demand CCP step down. For people investigated in CNOOC on the same day, expert, retired officials are most at risk. Xi's deep humiliation, severe consequences for Wang Has disloyalty. U.S. to push comprehensive anti-CCP legislation. Experts say this is a significant turning point.
It's all covered in today's China Truths. Many young people in China mysteriously died. Recently, a Huaihua, Hunan citizen, Zhou Lao, stated on his social media that he wanted to share the strange events he encountered. He said that on May 11th, someone from his hometown called him and informed him that a younger brother in the village had passed away and hoped he could return home for the funeral. Zhou Lao said he immediately packed his luggage and returned home. After I got home, I asked how he died. They said he died of cancer. He was only 49 years old. I asked how he could die so young. Didn't he receive treatment for his cancer? The villagers said it wasn't that he didn't get treated, but he didn't have the opportunity for treatment. From the time it was discovered to the time he died, it was only a week. He died so quickly. After seeing me return, the people in our village talked to me about these kinds of things. They said, "Old Joe, you don't know. You've been in Huaihua for over 30 years. You don't know that many people in our village have died in recent years. In just the past 2 years, about 40 people have died. And all of them were young, 30-something years old, with the oldest being only in their 60s. It's so strange." Zhou Lao lamented, "Our village has a total of only 450 people. In 2 years, over 40 people have died, and they were all young." Many elderly people talked to me about this, with tears streaming down their faces. He concluded that those who died were generally said to have had cancer, cardiovascular diseases, heart diseases, etc. Once these illnesses were discovered, they died within a few days, having no real chance to go to the hospital. Since the pandemic lockdowns were lifted in the past 2 or 3 years, sudden deaths among young people have frequently occurred across mainland China. The Ningbo Evening News reported that on April 5th, a man from Zhejiang posted a video expressing his sorrow. He knew a hardworking young man, aged 25, who suddenly died. He lamented, "Take good care of yourself." Additionally, a 22-year-old young man in Sichuan suddenly died while using the bathroom at home. A 23-year-old young man in Hunan suddenly died in his dormitory. A 28-year-old young man in Beijing suddenly died after drinking alcohol during a gathering with friends. Balconies of multiple floors collapse on a 7-story residential building in Liaoyuan, Jilin. On July 9th, in Liaoyuan, Jilin, the balconies of 4 floors of a 7-story residential building collapsed, drawing significant attention. Online videos show that in a residential area in Longshan District, Liaoyuan, the balconies from the 1st to the 4th floor of a 7-story building completely collapsed, exposing the bricks underneath. Another video shows large machinery arriving at the scene, working to dismantle the remaining balconies on the upper floors. On July 9th, Dewan News contacted the Liaoyuan City Emergency Management Bureau to inquire about the incident. The staff on duty stated, "We have received this information, and there have been no casualties so far. The specific situation is under investigation." A staff member from the Longshan District Emergency Management Bureau said that the exact cause of the incident and the subsequent handling are not yet clear. On the 10th, a staff member from the Nankang Street office in Longshan District, Liaoyuan, told Huashan Baodafeng News there were no casualties in the accident. The residents of the community have been relocated and settled in nearby hotels. The parts with safety hazards have been dismantled, and the cause of the balcony collapse is under investigation. The video quickly went viral and appeared on Baidu's trending searches. Netizens commented, "This is terrifying." Fortunately, no one was standing on the balcony, otherwise, it would have been a real disaster. The quality is unbelievable, but not surprising at all. Netizens mentioned the balcony collapse event on October 23, 2015, in which balconies on both sides of Unit 1 on the south side of Building 9312, next to the Fishery Bathhouse in Liaoyuan, suddenly collapsed collectively, resulting in 1 death and 4 injuries. Oil tanker mixing incident escalates, netizens demand CCP step down. The incident of large state-owned enterprises in China mixing industrial oil and edible oil in oil tankers continues to escalate. On July 9, the State Council of the CCP announced the launch of an investigation, claiming that a joint investigation team will be established to thoroughly investigate the issue. Current affairs commentator Li Lini analyzed that the State Council's announcement of an investigation is merely an after-the-fact measure because there has been no regular supervision. Now, they are only acting reactively and may use some central enterprise personnel and specific units as scapegoats. At the end of 2013, at the Central Rural Work Conference, CCP leader Xi Jinping once said, "If food safety is not done well for a long time, it will be questioned whether the administration is competent." Because of this, netizens have brought up that as early as 2005, Guangxi's South China Morning Post reported, tankers are difficult to clean, preventing cross-contamination. After transporting hazardous chemicals, they also transport food. In 2015, Hunan TV also exposed the illegal transportation of edible oil by toxic chemical transport vehicles. On the overseas social media platform X, some netizens used Xi Jinping's words to say that the CCP is an incompetent administration and should have stepped down long ago. The oil tanker mixing incident was disclosed by the Beijing News on July 2. The two involved companies, China Grain Reserves Group and Huifu Grain and Oil Group, are well-known state-owned grain and oil enterprises. Commentator Li Lini believes that the state media's exposure of the oil tanker mixing incident may be the CCP's choice to put on a show before the third plenary session, aiming to divert attention from the CCP's role in the man-made disasters during the floods and from the public's focus on CCP corruption and incompetence. For people investigated in CNOOC on the same day, expert, retired officials are most at risk. According to the website of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, CCDI, on July 9, for senior executives of National Offshore Oil Corporation, CNOOC, were investigated on the same day. As the anti-corruption campaign within the CCP intensifies and corrupt officials continue to emerge, experts believe that the most at risk in China today are retired high-ranking CCP officials who may be investigated and have their assets confiscated under the guise of corruption at any time. The investigated officials are Deng Jianming, former Deputy General Manager of the Engineering Technology Department of CNOOC Limited, Zi Shilong, former Deputy General Manager of the Legal and Foreign Affairs Department of CNOOC, Chao Shujie, former full-time External Director of the Group Office and former Director of China United Coalbed Methane Corporation, and Yu Guimin, former Party Committee Member, Deputy General Manager, and Chief Engineer of CNOOC Tianjin Branch. Zi Shilong, born in 1971, worked at COSL for a long time. In January 2002, he joined COSL as manager of the cementing business division. In August 2013, Zi Shilong became vice president of COSL until he resigned in December 2015 due to a job transfer. Chao Shujie, born in 1964, in March 2018, was promoted to CEO and president of COSL until he resigned in June 2020 due to a job transfer. Yu Guimin, born in 1969, in mid-2022, was transferred to Deputy General Manager and Chief Engineer of the CNOOC Tianjin Branch. As of April 2024, Yu Guimin still held this position. In early May this year, Qi Meishing, former deputy chief economist of CNOOC and former party secretary and chairman of CNOOC Gas and Power Group, was also announced to be under investigation for serious disciplinary violations. On April 2, Fenghe, former vice president of CNOOC, and Chen Ming, former deputy leader of the Bohai Area Coordination Working Group of CNOOC Tianjin branch, were investigated. Earlier on March 15, Li Yong, former deputy party secretary and general manager of CNOOC, was investigated for serious disciplinary violations. Li Yong had worked within the CNOOC system for nearly 36 years, including nearly 11 years at COSL. CNOOC, a giant state-owned enterprise, has seen a batch of senior executives fall this year alone. The CCP's officialdom is so corrupt that it is considered almost universally corrupt. Regarding the investigation of 4 people in one day from a major state-owned enterprise, Mr. Lai Rongwei, executive director of the Taiwan Motivational Association, told the Epoch Times on July 10, "In these industries with more centralized power, there are still some vested interest groups within them that are actually anti-Xi. The interests behind these central enterprises and state-owned enterprises may be more complex and intertwined than we imagine." He believes that although Xi Jinping has consolidated the power of the party and the state, his personal sense of insecurity is also particularly strong. Therefore, one of the purposes of this anti-corruption campaign is to maintain the stability of the regime. Another reason is to seize many resources from these officials. At the same time, he believes that the so-called anti-corruption recovered assets may not necessarily be used to fill the financial gaps from central to local levels to remedy the decline of the Chinese economy. It may even attract more powerful people to compete for these hard-won confiscated assets. Liberal legal scholar Yuan Hongbing told the Epoch Times on July 9 that the most dangerous people in the current CCP officialdom under Xi Jinping's leadership are the retired CCP officials. Because one of the key points of Xi Jinping's political economy is to confiscate the wealth of these officials under the guise of anti-corruption. Mr. Yuan Hongbing said, and over the past few decades, it can be said that there is no official who is not corrupt. So now these officials have become Xi Jinping's bank. When Xi Jinping needs money for military expenses, he just grabs it from them. Local governments in China are under financial strain, and there are occasional reports of civil servants in some areas not receiving their salaries. According to official data, on one hand, tax revenues have decreased. From January to April, China's national tax revenue was 6.6938 trillion yuan, about $920 billion, down 4.9% year-on-year. The BBC considers this rare in a country that has developed rapidly for decades. On the other hand, expenditures are increasing. From January to April, general public budget expenditures were 8.9483 trillion yuan, almost $1.23 trillion, up 3.5% year-on-year. Xi's deep humiliation, severe consequences for Fenghe's disloyalty. Hong Kong media reported today that former Chinese Defense Minister Fenghe has been accused by the CCP of disloyalty, catching the attention of experts. The South China Morning Post reported on July 10 that the wording in the CCP's official indictment suggests that Fenghe may have been bribed or infiltrated by hostile forces. On June 27, the CCP's official media, Xinhua News Agency, stated that the Central Politburo decided to expel Fenghe from the party and accused him of collapsed beliefs and disloyalty. Although Beijing did not disclose the details of the crime, the phrase disloyalty has drawn the attention of senior Chinese experts. Observers familiar with CCP history pointed out that the term disloyalty is used to subtly refer to betrayal of the party and being corrupted by hostile forces. Among all the senior generals who fell during Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign, only Wei has been described as disloyal. A search of statements issued by the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection and its military counterpart over the past decade revealed that only Wei has been accused of disloyalty. A political scientist at Renmin University of China in Beijing noted that disloyalty is usually associated with former communist leaders who defected to the Kuomintang, such as Xiang Zhongfa or Gu Shenzheng. This researcher, who wished to remain anonymous, said, "Ask any party history expert what name comes to mind when disloyalty is mentioned, and they will tell you the story of Xiang Zhongfa, who is considered a great humiliation to the party." Xiang Zhongfa, the only general secretary in CCP history to defect, revealed critical Communist Party secrets to the Kuomintang in 1931, leading to a major crackdown on the underground network in Shanghai. Gu Shenzheng, responsible for the CCP's intelligence network, also defected after capture, causing the arrest of many prominent leaders. Hong Kong military commentator Liang Guoliang said such rare and severe accusations suggest that Wei's crimes may involve more than just bribery. He also compared statements about Li Shangfu, which, though similarly severe in wording, only said he abandoned his original aspirations and lost his party character, a standard criticism for bribery and corruption. Mr. Liang stated, "Of course, the specifics are top secret, and we won't know exactly what happened. But the term disloyalty seems to imply that Wei's actions might have benefited the CCP's enemies." Dr. Wu Moyuan, an associate professor at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore, believes that generally, the term disloyalty is not used to describe internal harm within the CCP or China. This wording seems to suggest the presence of external factors in Wei's crimes. U.S. to push comprehensive anti-CCP legislation, experts say this is a significant turning point. On July 8, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke at an event hosted by the Hudson Institute, a think tank in Washington, D.C., where he identified the CCP as the greatest threat to global peace. He said, "The U.S. Congress must continue to focus its efforts, using all the tools at our disposal to counter China, the CCP." This was Johnson's first long speech on U.S. national security and congressional foreign policy since he became Speaker of the House in October last year. House Speaker Johnson said, "Beijing is our #1 foreign threat. They have exploited every corner and loophole of our financial and economic systems." He stated that the CCP, along with Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba, form an interconnected threat network, which is a CCP-led axis. They wake up every morning thinking about how to bring down the U.S. Australian historian Li Yuanhua told the Epoch Times that Johnson used the term axis to describe these countries. While he did not use the term evil axis, the countries he listed are all authoritarian regimes that undermine the values of the free world. He explained, since they have become an axis, they are essentially an evil axis, with the CCP at its core. So this judgment is not a logical conclusion but a factual one. Mr. Li Yuanhua believes that the high-profile stance of the U.S. House Speaker in viewing the CCP not as a competitor but as an outright adversary is a significant change and an important turning point. Dr. Chen Bingda, a professor at Taiwan's National Chengchi University, told the Epoch Times that the U.S. Speaker intends to sever the CCP's ties with other hostile countries such as Russia, Iran, and North Korea, making their collusion more difficult. This aligns with President Biden's policy. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson said that Congress will work to pass a series of legislative measures targeting the CCP before the end of this session, including sanctions on Chinese military-industrial companies assisting Russia and Iran, restricting investments in China, and addressing the CCP's abuse of U.S. trade regulations. He also stated that in the next Congress, he will continue to support the operations of the House Select Committee on the CCP. He specifically mentioned the importance of bipartisan cooperation in achieving this goal. He said, "I very much hope that much of this can be accomplished on a bipartisan basis." Mr. Chen Shimin, an associate professor at National Taiwan University, explained to the Epoch Times that Speaker Johnson intends to introduce multiple bills related to China, not just one. He emphasized that the CCP leads the current Axis countries and, for example, plays a crucial role in enabling Russia to sustain the war in Ukraine. Therefore, the legislation will target the CCP's support for Russia and Iran's military-industrial sectors. Another key bill will address the CCP's theft of U.S. intellectual property and unfair trade practices. However, he noted that less than 1% of proposed bills by U.S. congressmen actually become law after being voted on and signed by the president. He believes Johnson's speech is linked to the upcoming U.S. elections, marking his first comprehensive foreign policy speech and identifying the CCP threat as America's greatest challenge, necessitating a series of bills to address it. Starting July 9, leaders from 32 NATO countries and partner countries gathered in Washington for a three-day summit celebrating NATO's 75th anniversary. President Biden emphasized the need to build a global coalition to address the challenges posed by the CCP, Russia, and other global issues. The U.S. House recently passed the Falun Gong Protection Act, addressing the CCP's crime of organ harvesting and proposing sanctions against related officials. A Washington think tank report highlighted that the COVID-19 pandemic caused the U.S. over $18 trillion in economic losses, suggesting legal action against Beijing for its negligence and lack of transparency. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. If you find the information helpful, please share this video with a friend to watch together. This will be a great source of motivation for our team to produce more and more quality and reliable videos. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths. Thank you for tuning in.